Okay, so let's get started. In this tutorial, we're going to be taking a look at installing our PDM Link software, getting online and starting to communicate with our PDM module, going through doing a firmware update, and then going through the software, understanding the layout and the functionality within the software so that we can move into the future training tutorials, taking a look at setting up a CAN keypad paired to a PDM, also pairing together a CAN keypad, a PDM, and a G4X or G5 system. So we're going to look at a lot of different examples here, but we need to get started with the basics. So first things first, I am on Link main website, main webpage here. We can see linkecu.com. We're going to go up here into the support tab, and we're going to go here into software. We're going to download our PDM Link software. We can see here we have a couple different choices: PC Link, DI Link, or PDM Link. We want to use the PDM Link software here, so let's go ahead and click that. We're going to move down here, and we are going to grab the PDM Link software. Now, at the time of filming, this is the latest software version. It's 1.7.15. Let me go ahead and click this real quick, and we'll download this. We can allow that to download. Okay, we can see it's almost finished. Just be patient here. Okay, so let's go ahead and install our download here. Let's go to Open File. Let's click Yes here. Let's give this a second to run through this. Click I agree. Click Next. It's going to install to this location. Program files x86 PDM Link. Click Install. Allow that to extract everything. Okay, it's going to ask me to have a device driver installation. Let's click Next here. It's finished that, and it looks like it's wrapping up here and completing. Let's click Next, and then let's click Finish here. Okay, so that is going to be completing the software installation. Pretty simple. We'll just go ahead and allow the software to open here. It should open on its own, and if it doesn't, yep, it's open down here. We can go ahead and click on this. Let's go and open this up, and let's start to take a look at a few things. Now, this is our PDM Link software. This is going to be where we do the communication and the programming for the PDM module. Now, we will be taking a look at setting up the PDM module linked to CAN devices such as our G4X or G5, so we can communicate between the two in the CAN networking. But for right now, we need to understand this software and some of the functionality. Now, the very first thing that we're going to do here is actually connect to our PDM module, and we're going to do a firmware update. Now, your PDM may be updated on the firmware to the software that's released, but if there's a mismatch, it's going to create all kinds of programming errors and problems. Same thing as we're doing a G4X or G5 install. We're connecting with a newer software. We always want to do a firmware update. That's especially important with the PDM module here. So what I'm going to do is go up here to the very top under PDM, and we're going to go here to connect. Now, I do have my laptop plugged into my PDM module. I actually don't have it connected on anything else here, so it's not connected to the vehicle, it's not connected to my G4X, G5, to a CAN keypad. It's just sitting here next to me with my laptop, and I can do this firmware update. So you do not need to have it plugged in and actually functional and up and running yet, but you do want to go in and do that firmware update. So let's go to connect here, and we're going to see down at the bottom, we can see connection, connected. It's going to show that we are connected now. Let's click OK here. Popped up with a message about one of the outputs. Doesn't really matter. We're starting off with a blank file, or we definitely should be starting off with a blank file. What I would recommend to do, especially if your PDM has been used maybe as somebody else, or somebody else is hooked into it at a previous point in time, just to avoid any confusion. If you go to PDM and you go here to reset settings, this will restore all the default settings back to the way that Link is intended to be shipped with. This just ensures that you don't have any odd programming that it's inherited from someone else potentially hooking into your PDM module. Now, technically, if it's brand new, nothing should be in there, but this just ensures that you're starting off with a blank file. I'll click Yes here. We can see blank configuration. We can just save that as that name, blank configuration. Let's click Save. Let's click Yes, and then click Yes again here, and now it should be back to the default settings from Link. So essentially a blank calibration. This is equivalent of starting off completely fresh and beginning your project. Now, the next thing we're going to do here, if we go up to the top, we can see in our dropdown, we have a lot of different options here. We're going to go from our PDM dropdown here, and we are going to go to firmware. Now, we go to firmware, we can see the device firmware version right here, and then we can see here, please navigate to a directory containing firmware. Now, in this case, I believe my firmware is up to date on this PDM module. So meaning the software and the firmware should be matching. If we go here, we can go into our subfolder here, so we can see this is going to be found C drive, program files, x86, PDM Link. This is the folder it's looking in. And if we go through here, we should be able to find I believe it's under resources and firmware. Here we go. So we can see our firmware packages. So right here, we see there's a firmware package. If I click open, it's going to go through and try to install it. So we see that we have our different options here. So let's go ahead and grab our firmware package. This looks like it's to be the latest. So the device firmware right now, that's the firmware we're on. That's the newest one. So we want to go ahead and click start here. So this is going to allow that firmware to start to install. Okay, so we can see here the firmware the upgrade has been started. We're going to allow this to complete the firmware update just to make sure that everything is good to go. And then we'll continue on with the tutorial. So sometimes it looks like it's completed, or yeah, looks like it's completed here. So upgrading completed, restarting, just allow that to continue on with the firmware process. Sometimes it's really, really quick, and sometimes it takes a minute or two here to kind of get through it. Let's go ahead and just leave this, go complete that process. Okay, so what we're going to do right here is just click close since it's completed that process. Let's go to PDM, let's go to connect again, and it should allow us to connect back to the PDM module. We can see the PDM is connected. So we've done a firmware update. That's the first and foremost thing that you have to do. I've seen a lot of problems, and I experienced these on my own by not updating the firmware. So I update the software, then I forget to update the firmware, and I'm trying to control something through the programming and something's not working correctly, and it ends up almost always being a firmware related problem, meaning my software and firmware don't match and the PDM is not going to function as intended. So super important that we do that firmware upgrade step. So now that it's out of the way, let's talk about some of the functionality here in the software, the layout and how things are going to work. So obviously we know at the very top, this is just like the PC Link software where we can go in here and has drop downs where we can click on a few things. Disconnect disconnects us, connect connects us. We've went through that already. There's a reset settings. We know that puts it back to all the default settings. Really handy if you want to make sure that you don't have anything inherited from a previous project in the PDM module. And then obviously the firmware update anytime you're doing a firmware or software updating, you want to firmware update your PDM module. There is a store settings option. So anytime you're making changes to the PDM in terms of the programming, you do want to go in here and click store settings or toggle F4. This will save the changes that you're making permanently to the memory of the PDM module. Otherwise, if you key off or power off the PDM module and power back on again, you may lose anything that you've programmed. This is similar to the G4X, G5 programming with the PC Link software. So same kind of functionality here. Let's go over to file.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.